This interview is made possible by Catholic Charities of the Catholic Diocese of Arlington, which is funded in part by the Bishop's Lenten Appeal. We thank all who support this critical appeal and the ministries it funds. You're listening to Searching for More, a podcast of the Diocese of Arlington. On this episode, after a natural disaster, mobile response units deliver basic necessities to victims. But when that same mobile response unit arrives in a rural Virginia town during the week, the need seems just as great. How Catholic Charities utilizes a disaster response vehicle to help the poor. This episode's host is Billy Atwell, Chief Communications Officer for the Diocese.
Cathy, thank you for joining me on the podcast.
Thank you for inviting me.
So you're a Catholic in this diocese. What parish do you attend?
I am. I currently go to Christ the Redeemer in Sterling, which is kind of a fun story because that's where I grew up.
Oh, really?
So I'm almost a cradle Catholic here in Loudoun County.
You may be the only one. Everyone just moved here.
I very well might be. I don't find too many other natives, to be honest. But I grew up in Christ the Redeemer. When I graduated from college, I lived around the diocese, so I went to another series of Catholic churches in our diocese as well. And then recently, my husband and I moved back to Loudoun County, and we both decided we wanted to go back to Christ the Redeemer because that was truly our home parish. And so we're back there now.
Where'd you go to college?
William and Mary.
Oh, what did you study?
History and English.
Okay, so it's a little different than what you're in now, but
it is. It definitely is. Yep, yeah. It was very based on early American and then oddly enough, European literature. So,
that's funny.
Interesting blend.
So you're Director of Community Services for
Yes.
Catholic Charities. Talk a little bit about what that role entails.
So I'm Director of Community Services, which encompasses primarily our basic needs programs. Community Services includes our two housing programs. We have Christ House in Alexandria, which provides transitional housing for single homeless men. And we also have St. Margaret of Cortona transitional housing in Woodbridge, and that is transitional housing for homeless families. Community Services also includes our St. Lucie Food Project, which is our food distribution throughout the diocese. Under St. Lucie, we also operate our three pantries itself, one in Alexandria, one in Front Royal, and one in Leesburg. And then we support about another 69 partners throughout the diocese in making sure they have enough food to distribute to their communities.
Wow. Okay, so that's almost 70 other like non-diocesan food pantries. Are any of those parish food pantries, or are these like outside of the church entirely?
It's a combination. It's
Wow.
Parish food pantries. It's other community partners. We have a local government that we help to support because the poverty in their county is so extreme.
Wow.
And some of these pantries we support regularly. We might bring them food once a week, once a month. Some of them call us when they need it. So it's not as regular a delivery schedule, but they all call us when they need stuff, and we're happy to distribute the food and help them out.
In terms of scale, how much is St. Lucie's coordinating?
We distribute more than 1 million pounds of food annually. We have a fleet of 4 trucks that are on the road pretty much 7 days a week. We have a wonderful cadre of volunteers that helps us to make sure that our deliveries are happening and getting there on time, and that we are being as responsive as we can be when the requests come in.
That's incredible. 1 million pounds of food.
Over 1 million, yeah.
That's
our goal
wild.
is ultimately 2.5 million, and we're well on our way.
Wow.
Well on our way.
So the main topic of the podcast is this mobile response center. Before we go into that, what makes you want to work for Catholic Charities? I mean, you could do whatever you want. Your degrees are in something different,
Sure.
So you kind of started on a different path. But what draws you to this work?
I love the direct outreach to our neighbors. I think with Catholic Charities, this is a call to a practical living out of the gospel. We hear it in the pews on Sundays. We pray about it, and there's almsgiving where we can financially support what we're hearing if in the altar or from the altar. Working with Catholic Charities also then allows you to put that kind of tactile lived experience of the gospel. You're touching, you're reaching out, you're shaking hands, you're interacting directly with the people that we're trying to serve. And I love that engagement. What I do right now has elevated me a little more into the bureaucracy of it.
Management.
Which is necessary.
Of course.
But I love still that idea of what we're doing is helping our neighbor. And
Very
then I'm
good.
a part of that process.
That's great. That's wonderful. And we're glad you're doing it.
Thank you.
So this Mobile Response Center, talk about what it is and what it's used for.
Sure. So the Mobile Response Center, MRC, is a new initiative that we started this past fiscal year. It is a initiative that's a cooperation with Catholic Charities USA, Catholic Charities of the Archdiocese of Washington, D.C., and Catholic Charities of the Archdiocese of Baltimore.
Oh, neat.
And the Mobile Response Center itself was designed as an emergency response to disasters. And
Like natural disasters?
Natural
Okay.
disasters. And so CCUSA received a grant from Ford to basically retrofit a Ford F-550 truck with a box truck that would allow them to provide that level of response following Hurricane Harvey, Hurricane Maria, other natural disasters. We hope and pray that natural disasters don't occur that frequently.
Yeah.
So without having those disasters, the truck sits idle.
We hope this is an underutilized ministry, right?
Exactly. And
Yeah.
because we don't want it to, the truck itself to be underutilized, they reached
Right.
out to the local Catholic Charities and asked how we could partner with them to make sure that the truck is being used throughout the year. So we jumped on this. We thought this was a fantastic opportunity to be
Absolutely.
a partner. We get the truck once a month. And because it is exactly what it sounds like, it's a mobile center, we are able to then take our services and drive out to some of our rural communities or harder to reach communities where there is kind of an embedded poverty and provide services in those communities rather than hoping or waiting for those citizens to come to us. They have challenges sometimes with transportation, or again, because the distance is so broad, they can't come to us. And through the MRC, we are allowed or able to go directly to where they are. And that's allowed us to meet a whole new community of our neighbors, but also bring services where they're needed.
That's amazing. It puts a whole new spin on the idea of taking the gospel to the people. I mean,
Absolutely.
This is obviously taking, you were talking
Absolutely.
about putting legs on the gospel. This is the natural outgrowth of the gospel, is
Yeah.
this kind of service, and to take that directly to folks. I would imagine people are very grateful that you're bringing these services directly to them. I mean, because I would imagine a lot of folks, especially in poorer communities, some might be disabled, but some might just be working 7 days a week, and they just can't get 100 miles to whatever it is, the next Catholic Charities office to get that help. What kind of services is it that this Mobile Response Center? So if it's kind of built for disaster relief, what are the services that you're taking to these individuals?
So at the moment, we are providing tangible goods. The communities that we are visiting are quite poor. They're struggling. There's no economy to support any kind of robust services. Many of the individuals that we serve are living in subsidized housing. They're very gracious and beautiful people. When we go out, they're happy to see us. We've gotten to know several of them because they show up month after month. And they live in these beautiful parts of Virginia, but there's no industry to support these families. Many of those we serve are also elderly, so we are serving the aging elderly. We also have a number of younger families where, again, the struggle is trying to find full-time employment and sometimes even finding employment at all for these parents. We right now have a single community that we're serving that draws in people from around that area. So people sometimes will drive, for example, 20, 30 miles to come into these services. We are planning to add 2 more sites in this new year so that we can have a total of 3 that we're serving. But right now we're bringing to them goods that they need to provide a healthy and stable environment for themselves, for their families, but that they cannot access through food stamps or that they cannot access through WIC or other benefits.
Okay.
Those items would include things that are very basic, like soap or toothpaste or diapers for their children.
Wow.
We provide laundry detergent, and so we are bringing them things that
Not luxury items.
They're not luxury items at all. They're actually not luxury items. We had a collection last winter where a church gave us children's coats, and if you remember how bizarre last winter was, we had a very warm January, but we had a very, very cold December and a very cold February and March. These families did not have winter coats for their children. They were standing in 20-degree weathers thanking us because they didn't have a winter coat for their own children before we were able to provide one. The poverty is intense out there. I've been working in homelessness now for about 14 years. I've worked with hundreds of individuals. I've worked with a number of organizations that also support the homeless. I was caught off guard when I went out to our first community just to realize how deep it is.
When I've talked to our pastor
areas.
in St. John Bosco
Yep.
In Woodstock, he's painted a very vivid picture for me of what they're
Yes.
dealing with out there and the
Yes.
kinds of needs that are brought to him. And they are the most basic of needs.
They are, absolutely.
It's really sad, especially when you're talking about children without winter coats. It shows you the desperate poverty that we're talking about. How do you learn about the folks, or how do the people find you? Like, what's the connection point between the client, as you refer to them in Catholic Charities, and the service provider? How do you meet each other? Like, what's the format for that?
The site that we do go to is the St. John Bosco Outreach Center in Woodstock.
Okay.
And that was just a wonderful coming together of intention and need. We have another emergency services program through Community Services that provides financial assistance. And we had recently contacted the St. John Bosco Outreach to find out if there's a way that we could work together. They have a thrift store. We have a thrift store. We went out there to tour their thrift store to see how they run it, to see if we could bring some of those improvements back to our own store. And they had a just amazing, well-run store that we borrowed some ideas from. But we also started talking with them about this new program. And Carlene Webster, who's our contact out there, said, absolutely, there is such a need out in this community. We'd love to be one of your sites. And so we said, great, you can be our guinea pig site, and we'll start working with you and get this going, and then kind of fine-tune it and learn what's working and what our clients need, so that we can make sure we're meeting their needs and not just meeting what we think they might need.
Yeah.
And we've been able to do so. She's a wonderful contact. Through that, the St. John Church is in an ecumenical food pantry, and they advertise the MRC through that food pantry. So the week before we arrive, there's a flyer in their food bags announcing that the MRC will be parked at the St. John Bosco Outreach Center on this date at these times. And if anybody wants some services, they can go meet us. And we're just a couple miles down the road from the food pantry. So most of the individuals that we see either go to the food pantry and come to us, or come to us and then head over to the food pantry before they go home.
Wow.
So they help us get the word out.
How often do we have access to this mobile response center? Because you said it's shared with the Archdiocese of Washington and Baltimore. So how does that schedule work? And
so we each get it 1 week a month.
Okay.
Baltimore has since said that they did not have the need that they had envisioned.
Okay.
So there's an open week that we're actually looking at taking on as well.
Yeah.
No commitment. So
let's get there before Washington does.
That's right. I'm putting the cart before the horse and announcing that. But we are looking to see what we can do, because we've had such great response, and there is such a need that as we add sites, having the van, or the truck rather, for 2 weeks rather than 1 week would allow us some flexibility. But we get it and assigned, typically it's the third full week of the month. Every now and then, because of maintenance or a holiday or some special event, we might push that schedule back. But it's fairly consistent that it's the third full week of the month. And we get our donations throughout the course of the month, load up the van on a Monday, drive out to Woodstock currently on that Tuesday, and do our distribution, and then we'll unload and clean the van on either that Wednesday through Friday, whatever day is available for us, before we return it back to CCUSA for delivery to the next site.
Gotcha. You mentioned that working management, the downside to that is you're not, in the field as much as you want to, but I know that you are in the field. Can you think of a particular story or a family, someone that was helped with this, that kind of illustrates for people, what its use is and why it's so important to have this kind of resource that's obviously it's through a grant, but the work of Catholic Charities is funded by some of the people that are listening to this. So
Sure.
Tell them a story maybe of how their contributions have helped
Absolutely.
these people.
Absolutely. The first non-specific story is kind of a good backdrop for how the MRC works and the benefit that's received overall. We do our distribution starting at 11 o'clock. We arrive at 10 o'clock, and that gives us about an hour to set up, get organized, coordinate between all of our volunteers who's going to do what task that day, so that we have an efficiency in place before we even start to meet the clients that are there. When they come up to the van, they get a hygiene kit, which is a pack that's put together with basic personal hygiene items: soap, shampoo, toothbrush, toothpaste. In addition, we have a whiteboard where we list the other donations we have, and they can pick 2 items off of that list. And that list includes laundry detergent, dish soap, toilet paper, paper towels, and other items that are donated. When we arrive at 10 o'clock, keeping in mind we're there every month, whether it's raining, whether it's snowing, whether it's cold, whether it's hot, we don't start distributing the items until 11. We already have a line of people waiting for us at 10 o'clock.
That's
and
incredible.
I'm astonished that anybody would wait an hour to walk away with nothing more than some soap,
Paper
some dish
towels,
soap, and a paper
yeah.
towel. They need these items. And we have a line of people. We are nonstop from 11 to 12. We have a little bit of a slowdown at 12, and then we have the other families that continue to show up for the next hour and a half. But the fact that we have that many people waiting for us before we've even pulled into the driveway when they just need toilet paper and paper towels.
That's incredible.
That's incredible. I agree. I absolutely agree.
That's so sad. That's got to be heartbreaking in a sense to pull up and see that. But yet at the same time, you're there to alleviate that stress of we don't have toilet paper or paper towels or soap. You're relieving that anxiety, but it's got to be this weird mix of feelings since that need exists.
It is. It's kind of a smack in the face when you realize how very great the needs are. We were setting up one day, and I was putting some of the information out on the intake table where we do a very brief intake interview with our clients to find out who they are and how big are their households, what do they need. And as I was setting out the paperwork and the pens and so forth, some clients were in line waiting for us to start, and they were talking, so I was eavesdropping on their conversation. And one of the women said, I can't afford clothing unless I go to the thrift store. And in my head, I'm thinking, I go to the thrift store. It's not that big of a deal. And her friend behind her said, don't worry about it. I go to thrift stores too. And they were talking about a couple of stores that they go to. And the first woman said, I can't afford that thrift store. I can only go to this thrift store. And she plucked at her sleeve, and this was March, so she was still wearing long sleeves. She plucked at her sleeve, and she said, I just bought this blouse, it was a long sleeve blouse at the store this morning. And she said, thank goodness it was only 50 cents, or I would not have been able to afford it. And again, I've been doing this for about 14 years, and that caught me up short. 50 cents, or else I cannot afford clothing.
That was the cap. Wow.
That's her limit. And so when you hear those stories and you're giving somebody that extra thing of deodorant or that extra bottle of shampoo or just a couple more toothbrushes for their kids, you realize how very great the need is and how much they need these resources because they simply aren't available in their budgets.
We use the phrase every penny counts almost as like kind of a joke. But for them, it's so literal. Like every quarter is a make or break. If any of us got a shirt for $1, we'd be telling them, hey, guess how much I got the shirt for?
That's
for
right.
them, that's twice the budget they have for their shirt.
Yes.
That's
a good point. That was twice her budget. Yes.
That's crazy. Wow.
Yep.
Wow. So we think of mission work and we think of providing basic needs, toilet paper, soap, clothing, as missionaries in Africa or in Central or South America or in wherever it might be, in India. But we've got that same need a couple hours from the nation's capital.
Absolutely.
We've got that same need from, McLean and Vienna, these areas that have some of the highest, standards of living in the world. What is it that you need? I mean, so folks that, are inclined to help those who need the most basic of services. There's an opportunity, after hearing your story, there's an opportunity here locally to do that. What do you need? Do you need volunteers? Do you just need cash donations so you can buy whatever the need is at that time? So you don't want people bringing summer clothes if really what you're doing is stocking up for winter stuff.
Right.
What is it that you need, knowing that most people that are listening to this podcast are listening to it throughout the year, so it's not going to be like in the next week or two, but generally speaking, what are the needs that you have? So
there are some consistent needs that take place every month. Hygiene is one of those items, or those types of items.
Yeah.
We do have hygiene kits that several churches or youth groups have pulled together for us. However, sometimes people don't need the whole kit. They just want an extra this or an extra that. So hygiene items are always necessary. Laundry detergent is probably the number one item that we distribute and the number one item that is asked for. It is expensive, but we need it.
Interesting.
And so we give out a lot of laundry detergent. Behind that, there's also household cleaners like 401 or sink cleaner or Lysol wipes. They love the Lysol wipes. It's an easy way to keep your house clean. Some of them live in hotels. It's an easy way to keep your hotel room clean. Mm-hmm. On top of that, diapers are a big need. Many of our families can access the smaller sizes through their benefits when they have WIC, women, infants, and children.
Right. However,
the children age out of that. They don't necessarily age out of their diapers. So we definitely need the bigger sizes of baby diapers. So there's 4, 5, and 6. We don't have a huge donation incoming, but we have a lot of requests for those larger sizes.
Okay.
We also have a request for the adult diapers. We have a number of elderly that we serve or families that are supporting an elderly family member, and so we have a need for things like Depends across a wide variety of sizes for both men and women to distribute those. We need feminine hygiene products.
Okay.
And then throughout the year, depending on the season, we need seasonal items. I have yet to come across an item that's been donated that somebody hasn't wanted. So I'm very open-minded with regard to donations. But blankets during the winter months, certainly winter coats. I am looking for a church or group that would be doing an underwear and sock drive for me if somebody's interested in organizing something like that. So we could maybe in October or November, distribute clean underwear and new underwear and socks to these families. Again, both adult and children, all sizes are welcome. In addition to household cleaners, sometimes the hardware that goes with cleaning your house, like a mop or a broom or a dustpan and sponges are also welcome.
Okay.
We had somebody who had recently donated 6 used mops. They were in good condition, so I felt comfortable putting out, but they were used. They flew out the door. Even buying a mop is a problem for some of our households. You know, when you think about your limited budget, a mop can be $10, $12, $20.
Yeah.
They don't have $20. And so even putting out something used, if it's in good condition, my preference is new because I want to honor their dignity, and everybody likes getting new.
Of course.
If it's used, I don't frankly know where it's been, so I want to put out new as much as possible. But we have had some used donations that have been in good condition, and the clients have just snapped it up. We recently had a very small donation of bug spray, and we kind of scratched our heads and thought, well, it's summer, we'll put it out here. One woman, she gave up the other items, and she said, can I just have the bug spray? I live in the mountains, and I'm surrounded by gnats. So we gave her bug spray.
Poor thing.
I know. But that was her priority item of everything that was listed. She just thought, can I please just have the bug spray?
Because it is expensive. I mean, you go to Home Depot and you get like a 2-pack of it. It's like $20 sometimes or $10. It's very, very expensive.
And those gnats are annoying.
Oh my gosh, can you imagine?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yep. So,
if people want to reach out because they want to help or they have questions about the program or whatever it might be, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
The easiest way would be through my email.
Okay.
I do travel a fair bit through my job, so the most efficient way is for you to email, and I will email you back.
Okay.
My email address is my first initial last name, so it's Cathy Hassinger with a C, CHAS as in Sam, S as in Sam, INGER at ccda.net. So again, it's Hassinger at ccda.net. Or they could call my work phone at 703-841-2581. I would love donations. I am looking for more volunteers as we add sites. I do need more volunteers who are committed to helping distribute those items to our clients. And then, of course, cash donations or gift card donations are always welcome. That allows us to purchase items that maybe we have not received donations for. So if I have a little bit of everything, but I'm missing dish soap, a gift card allows me to go and buy 20 things of dish soap, which I can then make sure I have on the van that month. So I'm very open to.
So if someone opens a closet and forgets about that box full of soap they bought because they were in prepper mode or whatever it was,
right?
Where do they bring those kinds of things? If they do have something, a physical item they want to donate, what's the best way to get that to you?
So our shelf storage right now is at our St. Lucie Food Project warehouse in Manassas.
Okay.
And so we have a unit there that they have very graciously set aside for the MRC, and so that's where we keep our storage of hygiene and soap and everything else.
Perfect. So if you want to reach out to them, just go to ccda.net. You can get the contact information for the St. Lucie Project.
Absolutely.
Kathy, thank you so much for what you do.
Thank you
for the service that you provide to these folks who are in such need. And please share that our prayers and thanks to those that are volunteering and working with you.
Absolutely. Thank you for the interview.
Thank you for listening to Searching for More. If you enjoyed this podcast, please write a review on iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher. Also, make sure you follow the Diocese and the Arlington Catholic Herald on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And subscribe to our YouTube channels for regular videos that will inspire, educate, and inform you about the Catholic faith and our diocesan community.